How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the first ever episode of Medical Grade Minis. Just figured I'd start this channel as I started off my Warhammer collection. A little bit late in life, starting in medical school, hence the Medical Grade Minis. Just getting started here on some, on some Aggressors and some Bladeguard. Got a Gravis Captain going. Figured I'd just document the process, how I am painting up my Imperial Fists. These are not the first minis I've painted. I got a squad of Terminators and a Terminator Librarian that I used as my test minis, and then once I figured out my Imperial Fists yellow recipe, I painted up some Intercessors. I have 10 Intercessors painted, and figured I'd expand the army a little bit with some of my favorite units. I love the way that the Aggressors look, super chunky. Anvil Siege Force, Life. Got some practice games on Tabletop Simulator. It's gonna be good, gonna be fun. So I'm gonna walk you guys through the process on how I work on my minis. I do not claim to be an expert painter. Like I said, I'm just starting out. These are some of the first models that I'm going to be painting. But to walk you guys through my process, what I do typically is I have some third-party bases that I get from the Magnet Baron, not sponsored, and just take the models, glue them down to the base with some tacky glue up there. Then I slap down some Vallejo diorama earth texture, desert sand specifically, on the base. Peel them off, scrape the little sand bits. Come on, you can focus. Scrape the sand bits off the feet, the cloth down there. And then after I've done that, they can dry fit back into the base. But it allows me to separate them so I can paint the minis and the base separately. So I'm going to work on painting the base first. I have a little recipe that I use. Stole it from, who did I steal it from? Can't remember, can't think of his name from right now, but it starts off with Light Rust from Vallejo. All over, just base coat. I don't bother priming the bases, although I should. I have German red brown also from Vallejo for that. But then I do a very heavy dry brush of Vallejo Game Color Earth. If I could actually show you guys. Vallejo Game Color Earth, nice brown texture. And then a very light dusting of ice yellow over it. This is a test base that I gave. It gives nice, like reddish desert base, similar to Mars, but more like Arizona, Utah type. And I think it gives a nice contrast against the Imperial Fists. I'll show you guys some of the models that I have painted a little bit later in a couple videos from now, hopefully. But yeah, just want to get started on the process. So I will be back with you guys in a little bit once I get these bases painted up. So I'll see you guys back in a little bit. Okay, coming back with you guys about midway through the basic process. As you can see, I like to keep the spots where the feet of the models were originally glued down paint-free, so that whenever I end up gluing the models back down to the bases, the super glue has a nice paint-free contact point, makes the bond really strong. I did end up painting these first with the German red-brown primer that I showed you guys earlier. But right now this is just the primer and a coat of the Light Rust from Vallejo. I do remember, actually, now the recipe that I stole this from. Jay from EonsOfBattle put out a really nice red desert base guide that I stole and kind of twisted a little bit to the paint colors that I have. So this is about halfway through. I still need to put the Vallejo Earth and the Ice Yellow on with a dry brush. So I will be back with you guys once I get that done so you can see what the bases look like all painted and almost done. All right, the bases are now finished painting. Got the, since we last checked in with you guys, I now have a dry brushing of the Vallejo Earth and a light dry brushing of Ice Yellow on top, just to get a nice red desert base. I'm still learning how to dry brush, so I do have a little bit of heavy-handedness on some of the Ice Yellow. I still need to work on my dry brushing technique, but still starting off, I'm fairly happy with how well they came out. And they're not done anyways. How I like to finish off my bases after this is once the minis are actually primed and fully painted, I then glue them on to their spots and then stick on some dry grass tough starters from Gamer Grass, and then coat the edges of the bases in a nice black paint to finish them out. So now that the bases are in a spot where we can get ready to glue the minis on, the next step is to prime the minis themselves. So my first steps for priming is I hit them with the same primer that I used here, just the German red brown from Vallejo. And then once those are all nice and primed all over, I have an Army Painter just flat matte white spray can that I'm going to hit them from the top with, get a fairly thick coverage over the German red brown. Then after that, I just hit it with a nice Imperial Fists yellow to start off the recipe. And I'll fill you guys in on what the rest of my recipe is when we get to that point. But when I check back in with you next, these guys should be primed. So see you then. All right, checking back in with you guys. I accidentally went a little bit further, forgot to take a video. As you can see, everything is now covered in a fairly thick coat of the matte white varnish that I have. If I zoom in, you can focus. Zoom in a little bit, you can see just a touch of the red-brown peeking through. It is a lot more prevalent on the undersides of the models. But as you can see, I have started doing my next step of my process, which is just blocking in everything that's supposed to be black. And then I am about to start touching up the black model or black paint on that guy. You can see a couple black specks right there over that I accidentally got on the shoulder pad. So I'm just going to go back over that with some Corax white before I can throw on my Imperial Fists yellow. So when I get back with you guys again, hopefully these guys should have some yellow on it, and that's when I will go over my recipe. So I will see you guys once all the black is blocked in on these guys. Welcome back, everyone. It has been probably a couple seconds for you guys, but a few weeks in a move actually for me since I have last been working on these models. Moved to a new apartment, so my setup's a little bit different, but we're back painting again. As you can see, where we last left off, if I could talk, that'd be great. Where we last left off, I had just blacked in some of the edges and I was working on finishing everything. As you can see now, everybody has black paint where it is supposed to be black, and I've actually gone ahead and started putting in some other details. Like you could see the basing for the chest Aquila that I'm going to be using to make the Aquila's purple. I have put some lead belcher down on all of the metallic parts, getting them to look metallic. Put some Balthazar gold on some of the details in the weapons and everything. So now what I am working on is just getting all of the little secondary bits painted so I can avoid getting as much paint as possible on the yellow once I finally start getting that down. So I know I've been teasing this yellow recipe for a while, and eventually I'll get to it and be able to tell you guys, but right now I am just working on getting all of the other stuff painted. So I think my next step is I'm going to start putting some Retributor armor on the gold details on my Gravis captain. Got to get his belt buckle, some of the iron halo, some of the details on him, gold, as well as I'm going to use the gold on the details for the Bladeguard Vets. You can see some of my other models in the background now that I need to get some paint on before, so I can start using them. But yeah, we're making some progress, and I will catch back with you guys in a little bit. All right, everyone, just checking back in. I think I am finally done with all of the extra tidbits, and I'm now ready to start putting down the yellow. As you can see, I've done the eye lenses on on the sergeants at least. With the red helmets, I have gone down and put all of, you can focus, put down all of the gold and bronze on all of the details. I have all of the gold and everything on, all of the Bladeguard shields. I went and put down some power armor. If you guys want to know what that is just lead belcher base shaded with a Nuln oil, then some Stormhost silver drawn for edge highlights, and then a crackle pattern, and then aethermatic blue over the whole thing, and then along the electrical shocky bits again. The blues on the lenses are still aethermatic blue. I did some shading work on the back of my captain's cape that I am pretty proud of. It's my first time doing a cape. The gold is Retributor armor shaded with Reichland flesh shade, then relayered with Retributor armor, highlighted with some Stormhost silver again, and then reshaded down with some Reichland just to get that Stormhost back into a golden-ish texture. I blocked in all of the red on the cabling now, highlighted that, all of the red is also Mephiston red base, and then layered up for some highlights with some, I think, Evil Sun's Scarlet. Yep, it is Evil Sun's Scarlet. Excellent. Got that going. But I am finally ready to put on some yellow armor. And it is time for the moment of truth. I'm sorry about that, y'all. So what I usually do is I first put down a layer of Imperial Fists contrast paint. And then, after that is all dried, I hit it with a 1:3 ratio of Gorgruntifer in contrast medium to bring everything to shade it down into like an orangish yellow. Then I'm going to layer it with some highlights with some Uriel yellow and some ice yellow from Vallejo. That's if you're using Citadel, that'd be Dorn yellow essentially. And then once it's all highlighted, back again with Imperial Fists contrast paint. So that is what I usually do. However, I did just have an idea because the Volkite weapon on the Bladeguard Sergeant, that is Troll Slayer orange, then highlighted with Uriel yellow, and then covered with Eandon yellow, which is an orangish yellow contrast paint. You can see that's what Eandon yellow looks like in the bottle. So what I'm thinking and what I want to try doing is I'm going to flip one of these guys upside down on the underside of the fists. I'm going to put down some Eandon yellow contrast to see if I can get a warm yellowish, orangish yellow in the recesses that I want. And then if I can do that, that's going to save me time basing everything in Imperial Fists and then making up the Gorgrunta wash and washing everything down. It's going to save me some time, so that's what I'm going to try here on all of these guys. And if it works, I'll let you know when I check back in with you guys. But otherwise, when you see these guys again, they will actually look like some proper banana boys. So I will check back in with you guys once we get some yellow on. Welcome back, everyone. And yeah, now we have some yellow on these models. This is just one layer of Egandan yellow. Like I was talking last time, I was checking in with you guys. I wanted to try just putting down a layer of Egandan yellow, see if it would work, and turns out it did. Gave me the nice orangish yellow undertone that I want. So these are now looking like some proper Imperial Fists. So now, because I do want like the majority of the armor to be a nice bright yellow, my next steps are going to be to touch up the helmets of the Bladeguard Veterans over there. I'm going to shade them down with some Null Oil, relayer some white over them just to give them some highlights, and then put the lenses on. I still got to do the lenses on everyone else. But then once I get all of the helmets finalized, I'm going to start doing the same layering process that I said before. I'm going to put down some Uriel yellow and then some ice yellow for some highlights. And then once all of those highlights are down, I'm going to put a layer of Imperial Fist contrast paint over all of that, just to get all of the armor up to that nice, bright, vibrant yellow that I want for all of the armor. Once all of that is done, then it's just painting the Aquillas with some Magos purple to get the nice reddish purple that all of the Imperial Fist Aquillas have. Then touching up any mistakes, probably with the same colors right there, and then sticking them on the bases, covering them with a coat of matte varnish, and then sticking some Gravis tufts down. So I will check back with you guys probably when all the painting's done, right before I start debasing. So I'll be back with you guys shortly. All right, everyone. It's been a few hours, taking a couple breaks, but this is what the models look like after a layer of Uriel yellow and then a highlight of ice yellow. What I like to do is I just like to pick up the models and stick them directly underneath that light, just like this, and see where the light hits it. And wherever the light hits, that's where I put down the ice yellow to highlight all of the models. So now the next step, I have touched up all the mistakes that I made during the highlight process. Just going to put down a layer of Imperial Fist contrast paint. Then touch up the Aquillas, put the Magos purple on them, and then we'll get ready to put some matte varnish on it and finish these models up. So the next time you see these, they will be finished. So I will be back with you guys in a little bit. Welcome back, everyone. The final coats of paint have been put on the models. Varnish has been applied and the bases have been completed with the grass tufts. This is the moment you have all been waiting for. I'm very happy with how these models turned out. These make the last set of 10 of 25 models that I have painted. I have actually 26. I have 6 test models that I used to try and figure out how I wanted to set up my painting scheme. Then I painted 10 intercessors, and now I have painted 1 Gravis Captain, 3 Bladeguard, and 6 Aggressors to round out my current 510 points, at least according to the current rules. So without further ado, here are the models. We'll start off with the Gravis Captain. Very happy with how the shading looks on the back of his cape. And I'm very proud with how these came out. First time I've ever done some shading on a cape, so I'm really happy with that. I think it came out very well. Come on, focus. A couple things here and there. Still need to work on getting the skulls, some of the lenses or eyepieces on the skull. Probably could have done a little bit better, but overall I'm very happy with that. So that is the Gravis Captain. Next up, I believe the squad of Bladeguard. This is how they look. Come on, focus. I think they turned out very well. I'm particularly happy with how that Volkite pistol on the Bladeguard Sergeant came out. Very happy with how I said power armor earlier. I meant power sword. Come on, focus. That's how the power sword looks on that Bladeguard, and this is the power sword on this one. I am very happy with how they came out with the power crackles. Here's the backs of the models. I think they came out very well, very clean. So I'm very proud of them. I'm trying to figure out what models I want to paint up next. While I have 3 Assault Centurions primed and ready to be highlighted, I think I want to build up the other 3 Bladeguard that I have, just so I have a full squad of 6. But speaking of squad of 6, here are the Aggressors that I have painted up. I think they turned out very well. I think everything turned out really well. I'm really happy with the highlights, the intensity of the yellow, and the more subtle highlights that I have. At least focus under the recesses of the legs, the subtle orange to yellow change. On my other intercessors that I have, it's more of a stark difference between, come on, you can focus. It's more of a stark difference between the highlights and the other dark shadows. So overall, this is my first foray with actual highlighting too. On the cabling, I have both Mephisto in red and Evil Sun Scarlet just for some highlights. So overall, very happy with how these models turned out. And now I need to figure out what I want to do next. Do I want to work on, like I said, the 3 Bladeguard? So I now have a full squad of 6. Do I want to work on these Assault Centurions while I have them primed just because they're the closest? I also have a Brutalis Dreadnought that's semi-based, but it'd be my first foray into a vehicle. I don't know what I want to work on next, but I'm very happy with how these turned out, and I hope you enjoyed watching the process of my first documented process rather of me building these models. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you all with the next project when you'll find out what I actually decide to work on. So yeah, thanks for joining me on this journey. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.